7:35 on a very sunny Thursday morning. Now we've got Sam Simmons here at mic number 2.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, very.
Hey, do me a favor.
Yes.
Give the door a shove. I'm getting the sunlight right off your car window.
Yeah. Oh, is that not my halo?
That's your halo.
My countenance, yes.
Oh, McKinney, Texas.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Yep, here we go again, unfortunately. It's, back into the same situation where you've got, a camera, a cell phone video that only shows a soundbite of an entire situation that was verging on the legal definition of a riot. And once again, everybody's rushing to judgment that the media is wanting to just hang this guy, this police officer, who we now know had, it's reported that he had seen, 2 suicides that day before he had to deal with this foolishness.
He had the 6 o'clock shift. He came on at 6 p.m.
Right.
in McKinney, Texas, suburb of Dallas. By the time, and it was still apparently daylight enough to where you didn't need any type of camera lighting to take the video to begin with. So you know that from 6 o'clock to perhaps 7:30, he had already worked 2 suicides.
Yeah.
And one, I think, was a teenage girl, and they didn't do her race, but still.
Right.
When you deal with that kind of situation, that takes a toll on your emotional stability.
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, and that certainly would not excuse him from bad decisions, but the fact is that this video soundbite came out, but after all of this, when they were just ready to just crucify this officer, video prior to his actions came out and showed this same bikini-clad young lady in the street fighting, attacking people that were just trying to cross the street and get away.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so this was not; these were not a bunch of kids on their way to Sunday school that were just trying to. Just to go take a swim. I mean, they were causing havoc. I mean, that's why there were multiple calls to the police department, and the officer responded, and he was trying to take multiple. Now, we could argue his tactics if we wanted to, and his decision making, for example. He was trying to take multiple individuals into custody by himself, trying to
30 to 1,
trying to restore order, and maybe he bit off more than he could chew. No one was hurt in the incident. He didn't punch the girl. He didn't kick her. He didn't pepper spray her. He didn't tase her. He told her to get on the ground. She refused. He put her on the ground. And just because she's in a bikini and she happens to be an older teenager doesn't change the fact of her actions. But once again, nobody seems to want to focus on the decisions made by the teens in this. It's all about this officer who, used foul language. Should he have used foul language? Probably not. But that's not a violation of anyone's civil rights. And number 2, by taking her to the ground when she refused his lawful commands, is that in and of itself wrong? Society needs to make a decision. When a police officer says, you are under arrest, get on the ground, and that person refuses, do we now want our officers to take no physical action whatsoever? What's he supposed to do? Send her a Valentine?
No.
Or just say, wave bye? Okay, see you later. Sorry you don't agree with this arrest. Or, I mean, it's just... It's getting to the point now where it's just absolute lunacy. And we expect, as a society, to be able to just dial 911, have police officers respond, take care of either violent situations or potentially violent situations, and use no violence in return. Well, that's the ugly truth of law enforcement. If you look at the word enforcement, the word force is right in the middle of that. And this is the world we live in. I mean, this is one of the effects of the fall, my friend. Sin affected everything in the world, and it affects people's behavior. And sometimes there are people who refuse to obey the lawful orders of a police officer, and they have to be forced to do so. Now, there's many ways you can do it. The Continuum of Force, which is, empty hand and then, full hand, impact baton, pepper spray, taser, tackle, a headlock, whatever it may be. There's a continuum of force there. Now, this officer put her on the ground, put a knee in her back, got on top of her, and immobilized her. Like I said, no one was injured in this encounter. But they can't wait to, especially the media, they can't wait to make this some type of racial incident. I'll guarantee you, if the young lady in the bikini had been Caucasian, if she'd been a white girl,
Same thing.
she'd have still ended up on the ground for refusing the orders of the police officer who was trying to take her into custody. Because when you listen to the tape, you'll find her running her mouth, trying to incite the situation, not de-escalate.
Well, and I think this is what they're trying to do. Hey, there's a white policeman there. Let's do this. In the back of their mind, I think don't you think they're pushing the envelope?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I don't care what community is in. Because you're a teenager, does that give you a pass? Because you're wearing a bikini, does that give you a pass on obeying the law? Because you're black, or you're white, or Latino?
Let's back up to Ferguson. Had Ferguson, Missouri not happened, would we have had Baltimore? Would we have McKinney, Texas?
Probably not to the degree that we have it now. I mean, of course, everybody now is particularly in the mainstream media is hypervigilant when it comes to reporting police violence, what they call police violence, which is really just flat out, one way of characterizing something. Most quote unquote police violence. That's like the term gun violence. I mean, it's kind of this, it's
my gun cannot be violent.
No,
it's sitting on the shelf.
No, and so if somebody resists a lawful arrest and swings on a police officer, and that officer takes him down, is that police violence? Well, I guess if you work at MSNBC, it's police violence, but it really is just the amount of force necessary to effect the arrest. Now, had this guy thrown this girl to the ground and kneed her in the face and punched her in the back of the head and, gave her a beatdown, that's a different story. I'm the first in line to say fire that guy. Not only fire him, but charge him. Yeah, with breaking the law. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. But now, just because some officer takes a young urban teen, as they've been called in the media, to the ground and immobilizes her, and she begins to cry, and you notice her crying is remorseful because she refused the orders of the police officer, and so he immobilized her, and that's what she's crying about. Mm-hmm. And there were other people in that area that didn't see this as excessive force.
Well, even there was one of the residents in the neighborhood had one of these posters that they got like at Walgreens or something. It says, "Thank you, McKinney Police, for solving the There's more behind the scenes than what the press is letting on.
Right. And let me tell you something. A lot of people, there's a guy named C.S. Lewis who lived in the prior century. As an English theologian, very well known among Christian circles all over the world. And he said something one time, a quote that has always stuck with me. And he said this: "When feelings disguise themselves as thought, all manner of foolishness is possible." And so that's what you see in a lot of the reporting. It's feelings over facts, symbolism over substance. So it does not matter that the young people that were engaged in this violent incident in McKinney, Texas, were teenagers. I mean, any law enforcement instructor for officer safety will tell you that you have to be careful with it. A teenager can kill you, and it happens all the time. Teens kill people all the time, and they kill police officers. So just because some, for example, when the officer was taking the and I think that's one of the reasons he had to put her on the ground, was because he started to be surrounded by these older teenage boys. One of them was a head taller than that police officer. But now the media will just call him a young teen.
Sure.
Well, that young teen's about 6'2", 6'3", and probably looked like he weighed about 185. I mean, that officer can find
Pretty
himself
stout
in
boy.
That's a stout fella, yeah. And it doesn't matter if he's 16 or 17. There are young boys at Mountain Home High School that are 16 years old that are bench pressing 250. I mean, just because you're a young teen does not absolve you of responsibility for obeying the law, and it does not make you less of a threat.
Well, here's some more that I've just learned on this. The pool party was organized by a Titania Rhodes, who's 20 years old. Apparently, she's been hiding her identity on social media.
Yeah.
There's a picture of her and her mother, and the actual 20-year-old girl is standing taking a selfie flipping people off.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay, now it says here the Craig Ranch subdivision has a neighborhood park and gated pool and clubhouse for residents. The pool and clubhouse is gated and scan card is needed to gain access. The subdivision has a homeowners association which regulates and controls activities in and around the pool and has strict rules for use thereof.
These people paid for it. It's their pool. It's their neighborhood. Their neighborhood association built the pool. They have legal right and control over it. I am not a member of Big Creek Country Club. I'm friends with lots of people that go there, and I eat dinner there with my parents are members. But I do not have the right to just drive up to Big Creek Country Club and pull my beach towel out of my trunk and go use their pool. I'm not a member. I didn't pay for that. It's just like the same thing as if you went to the public pool and there's a $1.50 or $2 charge to get in. Can I climb the fence? Can I just stroll on in while other people are paying? Those kids didn't pay to be there. This was not their pool, wasn't their neighborhood. Has nothing whatsoever to do with their color, their race, their creed, ethnicity, none of that. They didn't have a legal right to be there. You can't just waltz into a restaurant and start eating without paying.
Sure.
It's ridiculous.
It was the security people at the pool that called the police anyway.
Yeah, they did the right
thing. It's got the rental agreement here. If you wish to have a pool party, it must be limited to 20 people. The fees will be $175 refundable security damage deposit and $50 rental use fee.
Yep. Nothing wrong with that. It's their pool.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, guess what? Go to another pool.
Go to another pool.
Yeah, go find it. Yeah. Go to the lake. But of course, because of these people's age and obviously from the media because of their color, so they're somehow entitled to go waltz into somebody else's swimming pool and use it at will. I'm sorry, it does not work that way. I don't care what color you are.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to discuss the fact, are we at the point where the police will quit responding to some of these things?
It's called depolicing. We'll talk about that.
Be right back. 7:50, continuing our discussion about the officer at McKinney, Texas. And are we getting to the point where police are going to blow it off and say, forget it, we're not going to show up, handle it yourself?
There's absolutely no question in my mind, and I think the statistics are beginning to bear this out, particularly in urban areas, large cities, where police are even more under fire, more under the microscope, especially white police officers who are nothing more than a blue-clad racist being employed by a city in the view of some. We're starting to see in those areas, for example, in New York City, for example, in that area, remember the gentleman who was arrested for cigarettes? They brought him to the ground. He died because he was massively obese and had used cocaine and all that, but they blamed it on a chokehold, which was actually a headlock that was on for less than 7 seconds, but not to confuse anybody with the facts. What we're starting to see in those areas is crime is increasing. Why is crime increasing? Because of, in my opinion, it's depolicing. That's the term that's been coined for this. And what depolicing is police officers who don't want to get involved. They completely shut the door to proactive policing. They're not going to make any traffic stops. They're only going to do the bare minimum that they have to do to collect their paycheck, retire, and get the heck out of there. Mm-hmm. And you're starting to see that in larger cities. I'm on online, Facebook, member of a few police communities, and just seeing guys in departments, I don't even know where these fellas are, saying, hey, saw a guy blow a red light today, loaded with 4 black individuals. I'm a white guy. It ain't worth it. So he just turned his head and said, it is not worth it for a red light ticket. No, sir. No, thank you. No how, no way. And so that's called depolicing, where an officer should get involved. I don't care what color you are. If you blow a red light by 3 or 4 seconds, you need to be stopped and have your insurance checked and receive a citation, if it's up to the officer. But nowadays, in many of these areas, officers are just turning a blind eye. They answer their calls, and they're turning them into what in the business it's called rods, retired on duty. Mm-hmm. And we are starting to see a lot of rods out there because they don't want to get in trouble. Politicians will throw them under the bus. Look at the mayors of some of these big cities, mm-hmm. and even in some cases the chief of. Now there have been some good chiefs and sheriffs come out, but in some cases, hey, that chief's going to protect his job. That mayor wants to get reelected, and they will throw these guys under the bus in a heartbeat if they feel like the the tide of public opinion is turning against them. So what you see is a de-escalation of proactive policing, and that's why you're starting to see crime grow up. I mean, for example, in some of these urban areas, a police officer sees a guy 2:30 in the morning, rolling around a parking lot with his lights out, but he's not broken the law. It's a private. A parking lot is private. You can roll through there at night with your lights off. But is that suspicious behavior? Yeah, 2 or 3 in the morning, sure. Then when he pulls out onto the street, he turns his lights on. He's legal. He's got a seatbelt on. But what's he doing? Is he casing cars, or is the officer going to follow him? Well, if the officer is Chinese or Latino or white, and that's a black guy driving that car, he may say, nope, not worth it. I'm not going to investigate that, and roll on. Yep. And then, of course, you could reverse it the other way. A black officer with a white suspect. Is it worth getting involved, in a situation where the officer is a different race, whatever the race may be, than the suspect? And that's the climate that is being created in this country right now. Do you feel
it's been accelerated by the Obama administration?
I certainly don't think that President Obama has done anything to help race relations, particularly with his declaration, for example. I forget the police department where he said the police acted stupidly when he didn't even read the report, didn't have any of the facts. And it was a black professor that was breaking into his own home. But how are the police supposed to know that guy's breaking into his own house? It wasn't because he was black. He's trying to jimmy the door, and then his neighbor called, and he said the police acted stupidly, and that led to that stupid, idiotic beer summit. Well, that didn't solve a thing. No. And did he come back and apologize? Absolutely not. So on that score, is he helping? No.
St. Louis. I mean, that just stirs the brew.
Al Sharpton is a clown. He is a clown. He's that guy is. What about the cases where he's been wrong? What was it? What was her name? Tawana Bradley, or whatever her name was, said that she had been raped and rolled up in a carpet by a bunch of white guys. Guess what? It was a lie. Mm-hmm. She was charged. Did he fly back where he had, started a riot and say, "Hey, I was wrong. These white guys didn't do anything"? Absolutely not. And so he's a media whore. That's what he does for a living, and race baiting is what he's about.
Mm-hmm. Final 30 seconds.
And I don't think he's very reverent at that. Mm-mm. So, I think what we have to do is take each circumstance, each incident, and look at all of the facts. Don't believe just the media narrative, and maybe not even believe what you see for 10 seconds, because you need the backstory. If you just see 5 seconds of a cop wailing on a guy, the 5 seconds before that where the guy had a gun in his hand and the officer disarmed him is kind of important.
You think?
Yeah, get the whole story, man.
Take notes, NBC, CNN, and all you guys out there.
Take notes, man. Take notes.
Appreciate Doc Hoskins and Sam Siemens being here today. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.